And here we are once again, guys. Yes, it is, of course, another week, which means, of course, another review of this week's WandaVision. This is episode 7, Breaking the Fourth Wall. A lot of stuff to talk about in this episode for sure, especially considering that it's, the one before the penultimate episode, and a lot of shit's about to go down for sure that we are definitely going to get into. But before we do, I do have to introduce my co-host here. First of all, he is someone that, he's been with me throughout this entire thing. And, he's with me every single week. Here he is, FilmFan05. Oh, he also caused the demise of a Swedish, certain Swedish band today. And we have
have to bring that up
for it. Here he is, FilmFan0599.
Oh, for God's sakes. Anywho, yeah, you fucking idiot. Anywho,
I thought they were Swedish.
No.
No, French. Okay, whatever. I don't give a shit.
Well, the way to start this review. And anywho, nice going, you fucking idiot. You dumb ass.
Whatever. Go ahead.
This was a great way to start this review off. Anywho, I can't wait for Kane to get on here and just fucking roast your ass. Anyways, yes, I am FilmFan0599, and we're here to talk about the latest episode of WandaVision. We got some stuff to talk about with this episode.
Yes. Now, also here with me, he's been here.
They are fucking French, Kevin!
He's been here.
They're not Swedish!
He was here in the first few weeks, and he's been gone for a little bit, but he's here to make his return for the last 3 episodes. Here he is, Auburn Wanderer.
Anyways, let's move on. Daft Punk were French. They were not PewDiePie. All right, now listen. I'm back. I was gone for a little bit, but I'm back now. Talk about the WandaVision, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me on.
Yes, of course. I'm glad that we were able to get you back, because I did enjoy having you for the first few episodes. But anyway, we're gonna get into it right now. So I'll give my thoughts on this episode right away, as I usually do. For me, in terms of this episode, this was an episode I think we all were very much anticipating, knowing that we're getting to the end. And especially after the big cliffhanger last week, I think there was a lot leading up to it. And I will say this was still a good episode. I do think this was still a good episode, but it definitely was the weakest of, I think, the ones we've had so far. And there were some things that I think it could have done a little bit better. But we'll get into that in a little bit. But Double Nine, what did you think of this episode overall?
Something is glitching on my end. I hope all of you can still see me.
You are frozen currently.
Of course I am. Anywho, now it should be good now. Anywho,
it's starting to catch up. Go ahead.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, this review is going fucking
we
great
could
so
we
far.
could hear you. We just couldn't see you.
Yeah, this review is going amazing so far. Anywho, I'd say this was a solid episode overall. I was a bit iffy with it in the first half of the episode, but then once a certain thing goes down, which we'll talk about more during the review, I did think the episode was starting to get a bit better for me. I do think this is my least favorite overall of the episodes, but I'd still say there's enough in here to at least say I enjoyed the episode. So that's my basic thoughts.
Yeah. Caden, I know you had very interesting thoughts regarding this episode overall.
Yeah, man. So here's what I'll say about this episode. It's not a bad episode, don't get me wrong, but I think it's just an okay episode. I think it's definitely the worst of the show so far. My problems with it are mainly just with the sword stuff and then some of the Agatha stuff. But the Wanda stuff is still excellent, and the Vision stuff is also excellent. So I mean, it's a good, at least the main plot of it is still really great. So I really like the show, overall, but I will definitely say that, this was the weakest episode in my opinion.
Yeah, there definitely were some things that did bring it down. I think, we'll just like get into the episode. The plot of this episode is very basic. That is the thing right off the bat. The main plot that's going on here, especially coming off that cliffhanger, it's very basic. It's, Wanda is at a place where she really is just kind of, you can tell that she really is like just starting to become more and more desensitized to what's going on, but it's also really starting to push her over the edge. And it gets her to a point where she just kind of wants to like take some time to relax. She wants to spend some time just to herself watching TV. And there's not really, and even though, most of what's going on around her, she can't really control, appliances are randomly acting up, we'll have like a regular TV and then suddenly it turns into like a black and white TV. What did you guys think of that plot overall? Because I thought that was a really interesting idea.
Yeah, it was interesting. I don't know. The Wanda stuff for me at first wasn't nearly as interesting. I wasn't as into it. At first, it got a bit more interesting as it was going along. But at first, I was just kind of like, I don't know if I'm really as into it as I have been within previous episodes. But it definitely does get a bit better as it goes along. But at first, I was just kind of like, I don't know if I'm really feeling this all that much. If I'm being honest, I was more interested in what was going on with Vision during this time. But we'll get into that once we do. So.
Yeah, definitely.
I thought the Wanda stuff was really interesting throughout the whole episode. Again, I will say this is the first time I have felt the sitcom stuff was forced, honestly. Like, it's worked really naturally for all the other ones, but in my opinion, like, the interview stuff, that fourth wall breaking, I don't know, it doesn't really work for me for this one.
I have to agree. I mean, the only time it worked is when we cut to Agnes and she said, "I actually did bit a kid once." I liked that line, but aside from that, it didn't really work for me.
I mean, I thought the Vision interviews.
I was just about to say
the Vision ones were funny, but like besides that, like it just was forced.
Yeah, definitely.
Vision is like they have like the car. I don't know why that's so funny to me, but like he's just literally giving an interview. Well,
yeah, hey man, he was just vibing, and then
it threw me the vibe.
I gotta go find my wife who resurrected me from the dead.
I definitely did enjoy that quite a bit. I think what happened with this episode for me, and the thing that does bring it down, is that I just felt they didn't do enough with what they were trying to satirize here. Every single week, I think they've done such a good job of paying homage to this sitcom or trying to do, something, trying to do this kind of trope that we see, but like do their own thing with it. And I just didn't feel they did enough here this time around, at least for me. And I will agree with you on the interviews. I did feel that it was a little too much, the points of this episode. They're clearly trying to parody like, the mockumentary type shows of today, whether that be The Office, whether that be Modern Family, whether that be Parks and Rec. You can tell that was the main thing that they were trying to satirize here. And I do think in some aspects it did work, but I just felt they didn't do quite as much with it as they did in other weeks. And I think that's what ultimately did bring it down for me. And I also did feel that there was a bit more of a reliance on the humor than usual. I don't know if you agree with me, Double Nine, but it did kind of feel that way in at least the first half of this episode, I would say.
I'm sorry, what did you say? It kind of like was, what did you say about the humor?
Oh, I said that there was a bit more of a reliance on it.
This time around, it just, I don't know, it just didn't work for me as much. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, like, it just, I saw someone on Twitter was like,
off tonally, yeah.
Yeah, it just didn't really work for me as much, in all honesty. Like, like you said, I got what they were trying to do with the whole mockumentary thing, like those shows that you mentioned have done. But I don't know, it just wasn't like clicking with me as well as like the others did, because the others like how they were able to homage like those sitcoms and stuff, and how they did them was great. I loved them a lot. Here, I didn't feel like, well, while they did capture it, I didn't feel it just didn't connect as well as like the others did. It did feel very like just out of place, like especially when they did the interviews. Other than the Vision ones, I really didn't find them all that funny, in all honesty. It just didn't really work for me as well as I wanted it to.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's what they were going for, the idea this is supposed to be off, but it just didn't really work overall. I thought they just didn't do enough with it like they have with the other sitcoms, and I think that's what ultimately brought it down for me. But like I said, the plot itself is already very basic on its own, and I think that is what brings it down. Once we get into the thick of things, though, of what this episode's actually about, I think that's when it started.
Turn your phone on silence. Holy shit.
I think once we got into the thick of things, I think that's when it actually started to get really good. And I know you wanted to get more into the Vision stuff overall, because that's what interested you more. So I guess we'll just get into that.
I'll let Caden go first about that. Actually, I'll let him talk about, because he liked it a lot too.
So, Vision, I gotta say, because I have not been here for a few weeks now, I must say, as much as I like the Wanda stuff, Vision is the best character in the show. Honestly, like Paul Bettany, this is his best performance as Vision, also in my opinion.
Definitely.
I think the Vision stuff is just so fucking great in this. I thought it was funny, like how he tries to exit in episode, what was it, 6, was it, right?
Yeah, last week.
Yes.
Yeah, he basically almost dies. And then of course when Wanda, what's it called, the Hex? What's it called?
The Hex. Yeah, that's what we're referring.
Yeah, the Hex.
Yeah. When Wanda expands, obviously he gets saved or whatever. But a bunch of SOAR people are brought in, including Darcy, and he just wakes up and he's at a fucking carnival, man. And they're all clowns, which is perfect. Yeah, it is, and it's just it's really funny and it's clever. And Darcy's there, and he's able to get her to with his little telepathy, whatever the fuck he does, that kind of shit, whatever.
Telepathy.
Yeah, telepathy, and whatever the hell it is. And they both escape, and it was really funny with the interviews and stuff. And it was interesting how he now knows what happened, because Darcy told him, and how he doesn't remember any of it. It's really interesting. And I thought it was by far the best part of this episode, because the Wanda stuff was good. I really like how reality is kind of twisting itself now, and I thought that was really dope. But the Vision stuff was great in this episode.
Yeah, I will definitely agree with you on that. The thing I was most excited for this week at least was the dynamic between Vision and Darcy. It was an unexpected thing that we saw last week, and I was excited to see how that was going to play out. And again, I've said it before and I'll say it again, this show continues to find ways to make the Darcy character work. She really works as just the person that's really rooting for Vision and Wanda the most. She's watched the show extensively. She's become a fan of it, and she really wants things to work out for these two. And I just really love that dynamic. Again, it was very unexpected, similar to how the Wanda and Vision dynamic was unexpected. But I think it really works here. And what did you think of this whole sort of side plot overall, Double Nine?
I thought it was great. I agree with Caden. I think it was the best thing about the whole episode, in all honesty. I just loved the dynamic between the two of them. When he's at first, we locked eyes with each other, and she's oh yeah. It's just there's some great stuff in this episode. It's actually really funny, and it goes to the testament of how great of an actor Paul Bettany really is. And I also agree with Caden that I think that this is his best performance as the character, easily.
Oh, definitely. He's had the most to do here.
He is just really fantastic in this, and I love his comedic timing in this episode, especially with the interviews we mentioned beforehand. It's great. I love the dynamic between the two of them in this episode, them being stuck in the car with each other while all this shit is going down, and then he just says, fuck it, I'm just gonna fly. It's great. I love it. It's great stuff. I do really think, I honestly do think it was the best thing about this episode. In all honesty, it was really the only thing I would say I really loved about this episode overall. I really enjoyed this aspect a lot. I thought the dynamic between the two of them was just absolute joyous to watch. In all honesty, like I love the dynamic between the two of them, and it just goes to show you how great of chemistry Paul Bettany can really have with any of his actors. Honestly, like it just really goes to show you, like he just knows how to have natural chemistry with anyone, and it's great.
Yeah, he really has been just going all out in this show. I mean, I think back to the earlier weeks with like all the physical comedy and now what he's doing here. I mean, they've just done such a great job at giving these two actors, both Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany, like as much as they really can to show just how great they are as these characters. And I think definitely for Bettany, it's been one of the real standouts of this entire show for sure. I definitely will agree with you on that. And I really, and again, it's a very sitcom-y thing too, where they're kind of like stuck in traffic, all these like, false alarms are going off, which I kind of have I think the ending kind of gives us an idea of what's kind of going on there, why that's happening. But I thought that was really great. And I hope moving forward, we're able to see more of that dynamic because I really do love it a lot. I think definitely Darcy and Vision is proving to be one of the more unexpected, but interesting bonds of this show. I really like their rapport, and I'm excited to see where that ends up going. But my favorite stuff in this episode, actually, for me at least, is what they end up doing with Monica, I think, here. I really love where this character is going every single week. I think that she gets better and better as a character, and where they really went with her here, I mean, I absolutely loved it, because she's in a place at this point where we heard about this aerospace engineer. We don't meet the aerospace engineer. I don't believe that is the engineer she was referring to. This is just someone that said that, we didn't see the person that actually made the vehicle. We saw the person that gave her the vehicle. And, she is trying to go through the hex. She's been talking about it every single week that, I got to get back in there. And she actually does go through the hex this time. And we get this amazing sequence where, everyone's like worried on what's going to happen, but she goes through it. And not only does she go through the hex, but it seems like she has powers of sorts. And this is setting up the, Monica getting these powers, which I'm sure we knew was going to happen, but it's something that I don't think we thought was going to happen quite as soon as it did. So I really love where they're heading with this, with her being, I think Photon is the name of her alias. And I really love where that's going overall. And what did you think of Monica's storyline this week? Because like I said, I continue to be so impressed by her as a character, and I love where they're going.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty cool. I liked seeing, her getting her powers. That's when this episode started to become a bit more interesting for me, was once they did that, and I really enjoyed that a lot, and it was really great. It was really intense, I really loved the whole sequence, like when she's just going through it herself. I actually really liked that sequence a lot.
And you hear back the conversation from like Captain Marvel.
Yeah, it was really great. I really enjoyed it a lot, honestly. So yeah, I really enjoy where her character is going, and like, I'm very interested to see where that goes next, because I actually really liked it in this episode. It was really great.
Yeah, and the conference, and yeah, it definitely, I think, my favorite stuff of the episode for sure, especially that confrontation, which is definitely a huge moment here. We've been building up that everyone is kind of, not everyone, but a lot of people are seeing Wanda as the enemy, but Monica is like that one person that she still sees the good in her. She wants to bring her back to the light, so to speak. And we really get to see those two square off here. And I think the confrontation, it felt so earned in that way, where, she's trying to tell Wanda, like, I've lost someone close to me as well. It sucks, but we got to try to bounce back from it. And you can see, I think my favorite line is when she says to Wanda, like, don't make yourself the villain. And Wanda says, maybe I already am. Again, I've kind of hinted that I think they're heading in a very like sort of villainous direction with her. And I really loved where they end up going with that confrontation, and especially with Agnes at the end, which we'll of course get into. But Auburn, what did you think of Monica's stuff this week?
I mean, it was good, I think the confrontation between her and Wanda was kind of stupid, honestly.
Really?
Yeah, like it was very rushed. It was they I don't know. It's just like it was pretty like predictable what was going to happen too, honestly. It just like I don't know, it just didn't really like do anything for me. I don't know like how it's going to like really like impact like the story because it's like I don't know, like I just don't see like when this ends, and like cuz I think like stuff's going to like really like hit the fan. It's like I don't personally like see like how like Wanda's going to like be thinking about this, because I don't know, I just don't see it and and my issue with that is like this should be like a really impactful scene, and to me like it just isn't, so yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't disagree with you more. I think they've done a really good job of setting up that dynamic. I think they've done a really good job of exploring the light side and the dark side, and especially for Monica, how like she's also lost someone very close to her. I think they've done a good job with setting that up overall, and I really just I like where they're headed with that, and I especially like the fact that she has these powers now, because I think that's definitely going to come into play towards the end of this, and I'm excited to see where they go with that for sure. But of course, we got to talk about the very end of this episode, the big reveal that we end up getting. It's something that I'm sure we all were expecting. We've always suspected that there's just something off about Agnes. She doesn't feel like she fits here. It feels like she always had her own sort of plan of sorts, and we get this scene takes her away. She tells her to calm down from everything that happened with Monica. And, she tells her and of course, the first thing that goes through Wanda's head is, where are my kids? What's happened? Because Tommy and Billy just have seemingly disappeared. We see like a rabbit and like a bug of some sorts. And, she asks Agnes where the kids are. And she says, they're in the basement, goes down to the basement, and we get the big reveal that Agnes is, in fact, Agatha Harkness. Now, of course, no, this is not really a shock to a lot of people because people were suspecting it. But for me, at least, I loved the way this was done. We go back to the sitcom format, and we see that there's been things that we have seen, but not in the way that Agnes has been doing them. We see like Herb with the hedge trimmers, where we didn't really know what was going on there. Turns out Agatha was behind that. We saw the whole thing with, back to episode 2 when they were doing the magic show and it wasn't working out for them. That was all Agatha. We saw, when in Pietro, she ended up sending Pietro there, who I'm convinced is obviously very much not Pietro. I think we very much get that sense at the end of this episode. And the biggest one of them all, the two biggest ones is, one, the confrontation with Vision was completely fake. She was absolutely playing it up, which we kind of suspected. Double Nine, like you and I talked about that. Yeah. Like it didn't seem right the way they did that. And then, of course, the big one is she did end up killing Sparky. She deliberately killed the dog to put Wanda through the pain that she did. And yeah, so that's really where we end off with her. And while this wasn't a shock, what did you guys think of this reveal overall?
I'll let Kane go first.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with this like being what's going on.
Yeah,
just because like you said, we've suspected that something was up with her for like since like the second episode, But it's just the way it was done to me. Like I get what they were doing with it, but like I don't know, like it just was like kind of like dumb. I just like she goes into like this basement thing and like sees all this stuff, and then like she comes out and it's like, I've been the one doing it all along. And then we get this, and then we get a song, which, is, I guess, kind of cute, and the Sparky thing, whatever. But it's just like, I don't know. It's just like, it's just such like a whatever reveal to me. Like, it has nothing to do with the fact that like, this is what we've been predicting. It's more so just like the way it's done is just kind of like whatever, like it doesn't really like, like it didn't really like do anything for me. It's just like, oh, okay. So it has been her all along, so I don't know. But I mean, I'm excited to see what they do in the next two, because with, her finally being revealed as like this kind of like villainous type force, so yeah, because, I think that could be cool. So
yeah.
I kind of had the same feeling, like as Caden does about this. Like, we all three of us literally suspected this from like the first fucking episode that like it was like her messing with shit. But but I don't know, just the way it was done for me. It was just kind of just like, all right, we're here. Like, she's the villain. Like that's just kind of how it felt to me. It didn't feel like, I don't know, it just didn't feel like a grand reveal. It was just kind of like, oh, I'm the villain. I've been pulling the tricks the entire time. It felt really fucking corny to me. Like, which might be dumb to say, but like it really did to me in all honesty. Like I just didn't really like it in all honesty. Like, I don't have a problem with her like being like the mastermind behind everything and stuff like that. It was just the way that it was done and the way it was revealed. It was just kind of like, okay, I'm the villain now, but I'm interested to see where it goes into the next episodes and stuff and how, she'll be and everything. But I just thought the reveal was just kind of corny in all honesty.
I can see that. I really liked it personally. I think what I especially liked about it was the originality. They could have easily done a very generic sort of villain reveal. And I think the fact that it was played up in the sitcom-y manner that it was, almost to like the theme of like the Munsters or something, I thought was really cool. I thought it was different and cool. And I think Kathryn Hahn really shined in this episode. She did a really good job of kind of misleading the audience throughout a lot of this, because we weren't, but there were a lot of people that believed, her scene with Vision last week. And it speaks to how good that Kathryn Hahn is, that she was able to make it seem like maybe it's a misdirect. Maybe she's not as behind things as she is, but it turns out she very much is. But it doesn't feel like, a different person. It feels like the same person. It's just now we've pulled back the curtain more and we've seen who she actually is. And I really like this reveal a lot. I'm excited to see where this really ends up going. And not only that, we also get a post-credit scene in this episode, which I don't think we were expecting. Now that we're out of the sitcom verse, at least I think we are. We get this post-credit scene, and it's nothing too big. We get to see Monica. She stumbles upon what we think is Quicksilver, but I'm pretty sure, I'm under the assumption at least, that he's like some actor that Agatha ended up paying, and he's like, you snooping? And that's kind of how things wrap up there. I think we're going to see more of what's going on there. I think he very much is working with Agatha, and I think he's very much not. I think there's a lot of things he is, but Quicksilver, he is very much not. And I think we very much see that here.
Yeah. If there's one thing for sure we know, he's not Quicksilver. If that's one thing we know for sure, he is definitely not Quicksilver. But yeah, that was pretty cool. I wasn't expecting that. I was literally like, because usually what I do when I finish an episode, I just kind of skip through the credits so we can go to 0-0. So when I was skipping through it, I saw there was footage. I was like, oh, there's a post-credit scene. So let me stop here and let me watch this. But yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. I wasn't expecting that, and it was a nice little kind of cliffhanger thing to leave for the audience.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool the way they ended up doing that overall. And that's really everything we get in terms of this week's episode and in terms of what we ended up getting. So I think that's basically everything. Caden, what did you think of the post-credit scene in this episode?
I mean, like, it should have just been in the episode. I mean, I don't really know why it was a post-credit scene. I mean, like, it's so quick, and like, yeah, I literally have no real thoughts about it. It was just kind of like, okay, we'll see what happens, and I guess, it should have been the episode. Like, I don't even like know why it's like not even nearly big enough to be a fucking post-credit scene.
Yeah, definitely. I thought it was a cool scene, but I don't really know why they chose to do a post-credit scene other than the fact that they haven't done a post-credit scene for this show. I do think moving forward, we're probably going to get post-credit scenes for the next few episodes.
Probably.
Yeah, but we'll have to see what happens there. Again, in terms of this episode, like directing wise, for me getting into that, I think
we forgot to mention something. The commercial.
Oh, the commercial, yeah, the commercial,
because I actually really loved the commercial with this episode. This actually might be my favorite commercial so far, because you know, a lot of these have went with the aesthetic of the sitcoms, and this very much this feels like a early 2000s medicine commercial. Like, it really does.
Like Freeform or something. Yeah.
Like, it legitimately did, and just like it was just like fucking like it got dark, that like commercial, the way that they were like describing this pill and stuff like that. I was like, oh dear. But I thought it was really great, in all honesty. It really, like I said, it really captured. Like, I was kind of freaked out a bit how well they were able to capture like those early 2000s like medicine commercials. It was cool. But yeah, a pretty dark.
It also ties into, you know, what Wanda's going through with the like wanting to break away from your reality, all that kind of stuff. And Nexus is apparently like it was introduced in like Age of Ultron. It's like this internet hub that like it's in like Oslo or something, and a lot of people think that that's kind of what they were referencing here. They've kind of been doing that with every commercial, like just little nuggets of things that like we know, like Strucker, for going all the way back to like Strucker in the first episode. But yeah, I really enjoyed this commercial a lot. I think they've gotten a lot darker as they've gone on. This was easily the darkest yet. And again, what I noticed in this episode is that, you know, what they were saying, you could see it as them selling the product, but you could also see it very much applying to Wanda's situation, where she's trying to escape from her reality and escape from the pain and things like that, and not being in control of anything. I think they've done a really good job with the commercials. And Caden, since you haven't been here for a few weeks, what have you thought of the commercials that they've been doing?
Commercials are awesome. The one with, like, the shark and the yogurt thing was great. And then this one with like the antidepressants or whatever it was, I was like, that's really, really interesting. No, I think they're dope. The one with like the shark and the kid though, like, it's pretty dark, but that one's my favorite so far. Because I just love the animation.
Yeah, I would probably say that too. I think that's definitely my favorite. But getting into directing for this episode, again, I think the directing, you know, we've talked about it. It's the same director every single week, and I think he still did a good job with this episode. I think just there were points where the tone felt a little bit off. It felt like he didn't quite do as much as he wanted to in terms of the directing. There was definitely a style here, but I just didn't feel that style was quite as well utilized as it was in the other episodes, and I think that's what did ultimately bring it down for me. The writing as well here, I just felt it was still really good. A lot of really great writing going on, you know, the Vision and Darcy stuff, the build up with Monica, the way they've done a great job of building up to you know, what she's really becoming, the confrontation with her and Wanda. There's still a lot of good stuff in this episode. I think ultimately what brings the episode down for me is that it's just too short. That's really what it comes down to. And I think that it really is only this week where I felt it in like one other episode, but this week especially, I just felt everything that was going on here just felt a little too short. And I think we should have spent a little bit more time on things to really make everything feel that much more impactful, to get the most out of the 2000s aesthetic. Because I did feel just in general, there was more they could have done here, and they just didn't. I think the writing is still good. I just felt it was just a little bit too short overall.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I do think the episode should have been a bit longer. It was an hour. Yeah, it definitely does feel very short, and you know, and definitely there obviously, you know, with the other episodes, you know, there've been some really short ones too. But I don't know, I felt the pacing with this one, like I felt it actually badly at points. In all honesty, like I felt like it was a bit too rushed in a lot of areas. So I do think they should. That's my main issue with the episode too, is that I do think they should have spent a little bit more time on things. And they just kind of rushed through a lot of it, in all honesty. I wish they could have but they definitely could have spent a little bit better of time with some things.
Caden.
Wait, what? Oh yeah. I think I should have been longer too. I agree.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I think I think that definitely could have helped the episode a little bit more. I think aesthetic-wise, again, cinematography, I mean, the show always goes all out with that, and I think they did a good job with that this week. I enjoyed a lot of the stuff going on, especially when it came down to the sequence with Monica going through the hex. I think that's easily one of the most visually stunning sequences we've had of the entire show. I love the way that was done. I loved that. I love the confrontation, the Agatha all along sequence as well. The way that was done. I mean, again, they did a lot of great stuff here, cinematography wise and score wise as well. I mean, the intro was like a combination of like Modern Family, Happy Endings, and The Office. It very much sounded like The Office, especially if you do like a comparison. And I enjoyed the intro quite a bit. Again, similar to a lot of things, I do think it was easily the weakest intro, but I definitely did enjoy the intro this week for sure.
I thought it was fine. You know, it didn't really do much for me. In all honesty, like it's the only one I haven't really liked all that much. But you know, there were some cool things with it. But I don't know, just didn't really do much for me. In all honesty, but yeah, cinematography, all that, you know, is all great still. You know, I really like the visuals a lot in this episode as well. Especially in that sequence that you mentioned with Monica, that was great. So overall, that stuff is still really good as well.
Yeah.
You know, intro was definitely the worst also. You know, it wasn't like garbage or anything, but again, it's just like it didn't really do much for me. So kind of sucks.
Yeah, definitely. Again, my thoughts in this episode, I think, are significantly a bit more positive than these two. I still really did enjoy this episode overall. I think there's a lot of things that it did do well. It had quite a few highs for me, especially towards the end. I will say the first like probably 14, like probably the first half of it was just, it wasn't bad or anything. It was good, but it just felt a little too, it just felt like it felt a little bit off tonally. I felt like there was more they could have done with this episode overall, but especially with the Agatha reveal at the end and where we're headed with all of that, I'm very excited to see where we end up going in the next two episodes. I said it to these two and I'll say it again. I really do think the next two episodes are really going to be contingent upon how I feel about this show overall. And I think this episode, especially in retrospect, will be one of those things where like we look back on it and we think about, you know, how good it led into those last two. And I think that's going to be a big part of where the rest of the show ends up going for sure. But for me, I definitely really did appreciate, hold on. I really did end up appreciating this episode overall. Taylor,
I am trying.
Well,
okay, hold on. Sorry.
Yes.
There we go. Okay.
That's not what I want.
Yeah, this review is going fantastic.
That's not what I want. That's not what I want at all.
So is it what you want?
There we go.
There we
go.
Okay, there we go. And I am going to give this week's episode of WandaVision, episode 7, Breaking the Fourth Wall, overall a B.
For me, there was, like I said, for the first half of it, I was kind of feeling it was just a bit mediocre for me. But once the whole thing with Monica started going along, it started becoming a bit better for me. And there's enough in here to say that I enjoyed it a bit. So, overall, I do think this is a solid episode. It is my least favorite so far. There is definitely, they could have done more with it in terms of some things with this episode. But overall, there's enough good in here for me to at least say I enjoyed it. So I'm going to give it a B-. Bada bing, bada boom.
Alrighty. You know, this is all right episode. Some good things about it, but you know, some problems. So I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10.
All right, and with that, that basically is our review for this week's episode. But before, of course, we do wrap things up, I am going to give both of my co-hosts a chance to do their outro, all that kind of thing. Double Nine, go ahead.
Hello, everyone. You already know what it is. You already know. You can find me on my
Island Toe. Is that where we're going?
Wait, what? Where are we going?
Because you already know what it is. Like the
no, I didn't even hear what you said.
I said silent.
Anywho, you can find me on my Twitter at FilmFan0599. You can find me on the TikToks at FilmFan0599. You can find me, the TikToks. You can find me on the YouTubes at FilmFan0599. And of course, last but not least, you can find me on the Letterboxd at WWEFan0599 because Letterboxd, we get the whole shtick. They won't let me change my username.
How dare they? Horrible. All right, and lastly, Auburn, go ahead.
Alrighty.
Oh, it's not. Hold on.
Yeah, you forgot to change the setting, you idiot. There you go.
No, you're not.
Thanks for having me on. Y'all can find me on YouTube at Auburn Wanderer, Letterboxd, the things that are scrolling at the bottom. That's where I am. You should type in that really long URL link. How to find me, and yeah, man. It's the vibes.
I was just about to say it. Do be the vibes.
The vibes, yes.
Oh, and, fuck you, Kevin. They're French.
Shut up. Other than that, guys, yes. Rip Daft Punk for sure. Very, very, very saddening time. Auburn will be doing a video on that as well, so look forward to that on his channel
with a certain individual here.
Hello.
Anyway, that's it for our review of this week's episode of WandaVision. As always, guys, comment down below. Let us know what you guys thought of this episode. Love to hear your thoughts in it. We'll see you guys in my next video, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.
Fuck you.